Hey guys, and welcome to the first episode of Tech Addict. I'm your host Sam, and this is my co-host Rawad, also known as Ron.
Hey,
How are you
what's
doing,
up?
Ron?
I'm good. How are you?
Welcome to the show, buddy.
Thank you.
Basically, we've started this YouTube channel because we're interested in technology, and we also like to talk about it. So, what other better way to do it than to start this new tech show? To give you guys some background, I have a law degree. He has a master's in computer engineering. So we kind of put our knowledge together and talk about the tech-related news and tech-related stuff that we love to talk about. I'm more into the technology, the products. He's more into the coding side. So if you guys have any security questions, any coding questions, Rawad's going to be helping you out with that. If you guys want to know what's the latest camera that came out, what's the latest phone that came out, all that kind of stuff, you guys come to me. And yeah, welcome to our show.
My name is Rawad. I live in California, Irvine. I have experience for several years, actually around 10 or more, in development, software development, and hardware development. I'm keen on AI, which is a huge thing right now, as well as security. My passion is security because I've seen a lot of code throughout my career, and I've noticed how vulnerable these codes can be, especially if you're developing systems that are going to be used by whether government agencies, IoT devices, even your personal phone. So imagine you're carrying a phone that's vulnerable, and all your information, such as your photos, your contacts, your phone calls, gets leaked.
Especially nowadays, sorry to interrupt you, where people rely so heavily on technology and put all their passwords, social security numbers, personal sensitive information on their devices. Years ago, this wasn't possible due to the limited technology, but today, like, your phone basically has, if not every piece of information, most of your information. And if that gets into the wrong hands, it could lead to disaster, financially, emotionally, and in a lot of other ways. And so you have to keep them secure, and this is what Rawad specializes in. He's a software engineer, and whenever I have a problem, this is the guy I call.
Thanks.
You're welcome. I like technology. I'm into computers, cameras, phones, but I don't code, so I don't know any of that stuff. So like if my router breaks, or if something goes wrong and I need help with some code to set up OBS like I did for this Twitch stream, then I hit this guy up and he helps me figure all that stuff out.
Yeah, like I always say, like for example, coding, it's like a handwriting.
Yeah.
More than one person can write the same sentence, but your handwriting is different. I actually look at code the same way. I see code as a handwriting where each developer has his own skills.
Yeah.
And like
leaves his own footprint.
I know from the team I'm leading at work, I know the difference between who's writing the code, even if no one told me who's writing it, just because it seems like everyone has their own signature.
Yeah.
And unfortunately, most people that I've worked with, and most people that I didn't even work with, and they call themselves professionals, they're not really into something called secure coding. That secure coding is a practice where when you're writing code, you're actually writing it in a way to make sure you lower the number of vulnerabilities you can have. Like software always have bugs. But how big the bug is depends on how well you're coding. So
kind of compartmentalize your code.
Yes, like there's a lot of different programming models, like MVC model, for example. Like they help you structure the code better. I always advise the people that I work with, like always write like modularized code, because if you're writing one big block of data, like or one file, like I've seen code that they just bunch of huge lines of code in just one file, where when something breaks, the whole system breaks.
Yeah.
And the first thing that I've done
sort of
was
a whole
like,
building just kind of collapses.
Exactly. So the first thing I told them was like, hey, we need to redo that.
Yeah.
We need to take whatever we can take from that code and then structure it properly, because you know that one line of file, it got changed into like around 10 to 20 different classes.
Oh, wow.
This is how bad it was. And as I was told you, like depending on how well the developer is, your code can actually be more reliable. And when it comes to secure coding, that's even more important, because not only you have to structure your code right, you have to write it in a way that it's impossible for someone to hack it.
But you told me that your job just got a lot easier because I don't want to say where you work or what you do for work, but I'll just try to generalize as much as possible. He writes code that's used on basically Android and Apple. And so his job just got a lot easier because now, what was the new software development that you can, basically he writes code for one device and it just does it for two devices at the same time.
Thank you, Google, for Flutter.
Flutter.
Yes,
that's what it's called.
Like I was one of the worst people that always like targets these cross-platform tools, because you know they all suck. They either rely on JavaScript, they run in a web view kind of thing. These are not reliable. They feel slow. They usually get bad ratings on the App Store. So I tend to always stay away from them. But then I looked at who
developed Flutter, by the way?
Google.
Oh,
that's where I got interested. I was like, oh, Google's into that game. I know Facebook technically with React Native, it's a good tool. I'm not gonna say it's a bad tool, but the thing is with performance and with like, you know, fluidity and like, you know, feeling that the app is native is something that they fail at.
Yeah.
And when I looked at Flutter first, like I looked at the title, I was like, oh, another cross-platform. Let me look at that. But then I looked at one graph, and that graph made me change my mind. Technically, Flutter runs native code. It does not need a web engine. So for us
viewers who are not very familiar, what does native code mean?
Native code basically it's running at the machine language kind of. Basically, it's running at machine language. That means. Like usually in environments like Java or React Native, there's always a runtime environment that like your code needs to execute, and that gets translated to machine code. And that process is kind of slow. With Flutter, they removed that process because what they did is they built their renderer using C, and your language is using Google's own Dart language as well, which I started learning recently.
Yeah,
actually,
he also
loving it.
He also had to learn a new language for it.
Yes, it's called Dart. Dart was developed also by Google. It's been out there for a while. It became a standard, I believe, in 2014. And that language actually changed my mind about needing to learn new like scripting languages and like new languages that makes your life a lot easier. I was always a big fan of C, Objective-C, Swift. I know a lot of languages. I actually know more than like 10 languages. When I looked at Dart, it had a lot of promise. The reason for that is with Dart, you can do certain things that takes me a lot longer to do on other code. Like for example, imagine, like I don't want to be too technical to bore our readers or our listeners. But the idea is like when you're writing multi-threaded apps, you have to like make sure that you process it right. You have to make sure variables are in sync, and you don't like actually manipulate the state at the wrong time. Like you have to have like semaphores and all these kind of things. But with Flutter, like these asynchronous calls feel sequential. Like when you write them down, your code looks sequential, but in reality, it's actually happening in a different thread or it's happening asynchronously.
Magic of Google.
Yeah, the language is very promising. It kind of reminds me of Go for a second, and the language is very similar to Java as well. So there's actually, Google has a tutorial for how to learn Dart starting from Java. So if you're a Java developer, take a look at the website. It helps you a lot.
I tried looking on YouTube for some Flutter tutorials where they can teach you to write the language and do that sort of thing, and how to code with using that language. But I barely found anything online because it's so new. When was it released? It was released like a week ago or something like that?
Yeah, exactly, like Monday.
Yeah, exactly. The language has been out for a week, so...
it is publicly out for a week.
Yeah.
Google was experimenting with it for a while, and it turns out it was a popular language within Google itself. It is currently in beta 1. It has a lot of promise. The reason for that is, for me, a person that hated cross-platform tools just because they didn't feel fluid, like I wanted to be.
Changed your mind?
It changed my mind because it actually felt a lot more fluid than any other app. Like, you know.
So now, if you let's say for a person like me who's who doesn't know this stuff very technically, so now basically what I'm understanding from you is that you develop an app for an iPhone. It also develops the same app for an Android. What about, like, let's say the swipe down menu, where you swipe down on the iPhone, it kind of bounces, and then on Android, it kind of doesn't bounce. It does a different animation. How does the code know to give the iPhone a bounce and an Android their animation?
So that's what's also that I love about the platform, because it when I talk native, I'm not talking about native code execution as only. I'm talking about the feel and look also as native to the platform.
Okay.
So when you're developing an app on Flutter, some behaviors like the scrolls, the way pop-ups are happening, and all these kind of stuff is still honored by the platform. Like, for example, if you scroll, you find the bounce effect on iOS, but on Android, you see the actual, the bubbly thing that goes down.
Yeah, the bubble thing that kind of,
which actually brings it nice, because you still feel like you're developing an iOS app at the same time you're developing a native app. But guess what? You're just running one code base. You cut down the price, the cost for developing an app by 2. And actually, I would make it more than that, because it's a lot faster to develop an app on Flutter, because you're also getting the advantage of this advanced, like Dart, what Dart offers, because Dart offers a solution that allows you to do things like network requests, caching, and all these kind of stuff.
By the way, he lost me right here. I don't know what the heck he's talking about.
But they do allow you to do certain things like that, and it speeds up your development process, because you don't have to write as much code as before. And Google, as like, what's smart about that as well, when they released it, they thought about people, like, it's open source first, and they thought about people might have different requirements, right? So what they did is they did add a bridge to your own development on iOS or Android. For example, let's say you're already invested too much as an app in iOS or Android.
Okay. So basically, you have code written for an iPhone app.
Yes. And
can you plug that into?
Exactly. So you can plug in code that's written for iOS using either Swift or Objective-C to Flutter, basically. You can just add new pages and then hook them up. It allows you to do all that complexity, and that's what's awesome as well.
Oh, nice. That's really nice.
And for example, like, let's say, something that people talk about, cross-platform tools. Like, if one day Apple or Google decided to introduce something new, like, let's say ARCore or ARKit for Apple, those cross-platform tools are not supported yet, and people start complaining, and you have to wait for the actual developers to do that. But guess what? With Flutter, you don't need to, because you can always create your own plugins. And then you write the plugin for Android on ARCore. You write the same plugin for iOS using ARKit, and then interface with the same functions to Flutter. So it will still seem like you're writing one huge code base on how things act in Flutter for one, but whatever you need to bridge to the components, to the internal frameworks that Apple provides or Google provides, that's where you create plugins for it. So it allows you to have all that flexibility.
Okay. All right. Sounds good. I'm interested to see how your apps turn out, the ones that you're developing right now.
Just to let you know, I don't know if you heard about Fuchsia. It's like a new OS Google's creating.
Fuchsia?
Yeah.
What is that?
It's basically Google is creating it from scratch. They build their own kernel. They're building their own UI and stuff like that. And Flutter is going to be the primary language to use for developing apps on Fuchsia. So
I really think Flutter has a future. It's probably going to take off if it hasn't already even taken off. Yeah. Because, like, it honestly reduces, like, for a startup company that wants to develop for Android and Apple, instead of having to hire 2 different parties or the same person to do 2 different jobs, now you're basically doing one job that translates into double the work.
And cutting the time by half at least.
Yeah, cutting the time in half. Now, from a worker standpoint point of view, instead of having to hire him and then him working for 40 hours, now he's getting less work. So they might complain, but for me, I honestly think for companies who want to make apps, this is like the ideal thing to do.
Honestly, like, I had projects that I worked on as well, aside from my original work. And looking back, I wish I had that tool earlier. Like, honestly, no one's paying me to advertise this.
Okay.
It's open source, so it's free for anyone to use.
Yeah, by the way, we're not being paid by Google or Flutter, just so everyone knows. It's the first episode we ever post online, so still no advertisers.
So the idea was, I would wish to do that because I spend countless hours and like weekends doing my side project and developing these apps, and then it did take me a while. I'm usually fast in writing, like, on Android using Java or even Kotlin now, and iOS on Swift and Objective-C. I've actually had projects in each. The thing is, it always took me like time when customers change requirements on me. So now I have to change it in every single platform, and I have to test it again on every single platform. And testing using these languages is hectic because although like Android added like those instant run on Android Studio, which allows you to like directly, it's still not as fluid as using Flutter. This is like what I want to talk about next is, how Android Studio has instant run. I don't know if you're a developer on Android or not, but it allows you to reload the page and maintain its own state after you do like some code changes. Well, with Flutter, you have the same thing, but it's lightning faster. Like basically what you do is some editors and IDEs, for example, whether it's IntelliJ or Visual Studio Code, when you're typing in and you press save, it automatically reflects on the emulator right in front of you or your device if you're connected, and it takes like half a second to a second to sync up. And when developing UIs, that's awesome because guess what? You don't have to navigate back to that page anymore. And you can have your designers right next to you. Do you like this or do you like that? You don't actually have to like send them build like take like 5-10 some like depending on the size of the project. I've worked on projects that takes around like 3-4 minutes to just do one build, and some projects even a lot longer than that. Like I've also worked on projects that takes around 10 to 15 minutes to build, and those are very complex.
Basically, you're talking about what you showed me when you would like edit the code and then it would instantaneously pop up.
Yes.
Okay, so basically when he's doing code for, let's say, Android and iPhone at the same time using Flutter, I used to before see him have to crash the app, then go back to the app and reload the phone and all this stuff. I don't know exactly what it is. Don't hold me to these exact terms. But it used to take him a lot more time to show me a build, whereas now he just hits a key, it automatically repopulates itself on the phone, which is crazy to me. Like how it doesn't seem crazy. It seems like that's the way it should have been from the beginning.
I know. It's a development on another layer. Right now, like when I'm back in developing for iOS, like usually, like at my company, usually the regular way, I'll be like developing, like let's say a skin or whatever, and like I changed the code, and then I was like, oh, I don't see it on my simulator red. I was like, oh yeah, I need to remember to stop the app, rebuild it, deploy it back on the emulator, and then launch it, and then navigate to the page that I'm actually looking at. Which technically, if you count the number of times and the number of minutes you lose doing that, that's already like, a quarter of your work. A quarter of the time it takes you to work is to deploy and test. And
so basically your job got a lot easier.
My job got a lot easier. I can do like certain things on the fly. I was like, I have the simulator, both iOS and Android simulators right in front of me on the screen next to my code. Basically, I run the changes. Like basically I write the changes. I just save the file. I just save the file. That's all what I need to do. And my changes gets reflected right on the both simulators at the same time.
Nice.
So I can play around on the both, see how they look on both screens, try out like different simulators, let's say the iPad, the iPhone, all at once. Sometimes you write code that's specific for a bigger, like for iPad.
Can you also do Android
of course.
tablets?
Yeah.
Okay.
So like sometimes you have more than one resolution screen and you want to have a design for each, and you don't want to keep like mimicking, because I've had scenarios where I did something, it looked perfect on the iPhone, I did something else for the iPad, then I fixed something for the iPad, it ruined the one on the iPhone. So it does take that. And Flutter, it follows the same system as like a whole constraints kind of thing, where layout is size independent, but you still want to create different layouts for different skin resolutions, because there's a much bigger variety of Android tablets. Tablets in general, whether it's an iPad or an Android tablet, you have more real estate, so you want to use up more of the screen. For example, why not use, for example, the left side as showing like the main menu and stuff like that, so you can quickly navigate throughout the menu. Whereas on the right side, you show the details of each of those menu pages.
Yeah.
Whereas if you're developing on a phone, you might actually want to navigate to another page because you don't have enough real estate as you have on the iPad. And you know, as a suggestion from a lot of
that iPad Pro has a huge screen.
Oh yeah, especially that.
That's like that's the biggest tablet, isn't it?
Yeah. You always have to think about different resolutions when you're handling, especially like those bigger. Like I like to, like if I'm writing something that is UI related, I always have to consider: am I deploying this to iPads, or am I deploying that to iPhones? And same goes for Android.
So I don't get it when you write code for, let's say, an iOS device like an iPhone. Do you have to write a different code for the iPad?
No, it's the same code base, but I write different UIs. So whether you use an interface builder or you programmatically write them, you need to honor the real estate basically. Like imagine you have an iPhone app that you're running it on an iPad. I usually don't like these apps. I just like.
But you don't have to rewrite the entire code.
But you don't have to rewrite it because you're just, you know, when I describe if you're writing proper way, like let's say you follow that model view controller. In a case like that, your model and your controller are the same. You just change the view. Yeah. And when you change usually the view, you just all the interface is still the same. So the model and the controller still connects to that view the same.
How about different size iPads or just one code for all iPads?
Well, you can technically write different layouts for different sizes as well.
Oh, really?
So you can technically do whatever you want when you're developing certain things. I've noticed that a lot of developers don't do that for different sizes. Maybe the iPad Pro is another deal. But usually most iPad minis and the regular sized iPad, they follow the same code base for the view.
All right. So now on a lighter note, we are going to talk about the new Mario that's appearing in the Google Maps.
Oh yeah.
Recently, Google has announced that it is going to include Mario Kart in their maps. So basically, instead of that arrow that guides you towards your destination, you guys will be seeing a Mario Kart. However, to enable that Mario Kart, you have to tap on a question mark that comes up when you're setting your destination. Now, they said that they were going to launch it today. They said that you have to update your phone to the latest Google Maps application. I've updated my phone to that, but still I have an iPhone 8 Plus. I still haven't received it. I think why haven't I received it yet? Do you have any idea why that's happening?
Usually when app developers, especially like the big ones where people have a lot, like you have a lot of downloads where you're accessing a lot of users, these companies don't usually release the update to everyone at the same time.
Why is that?
They want to stage it because let's say they introduce a new bug in the new version. They don't want everyone to get affected. So what they do is they first release it for the first day, for example, for 10,000 people. Yeah. They monitor the crash logs because everything that crashed in the app, you have options to send analytics to Google servers or.
Do they really look at those crash logs?
They do look at the crash logs to make sure that no one's complaining or no one's like no app is misbehaving at the same time, because there is always those times when you're testing in a tested environment. You don't find these issues, but when you actually send it out to the public, because of all the variation of devices, because of all the variation of the network, the speed of the connection, all these can matter, and then it can cause apps to misbehave. Okay. So what they do usually is they stage the
roll
release.
It out.
So they roll it out through, like for example, they set a week cycle, for instance, and they roll out gradually, and after a week, everyone gets it.
I wonder if Google sides with Android users and gives them the app first, or whether it.
I don't think so, because I have a Google Pixel too, right? And I didn't release it as well. I did not release it yet, so.
Okay. You didn't check. Did you check your app store yet?
I did check my app store.
Okay, still no update. Yes. Yeah, I tried updating my phone. No luck yet with the Mario Kart, but I'm looking forward to that. Yes. Okay, guys. So we're back. We took a small break, got some water, and we're back. Okay, so now we're basically gonna start talking about Android P. The rumored what's the name of the Android, what does the P stand for, still Popsicle. A mystery. Not pop, I don't think popsicle. I read somewhere online that it was pineapple upside down cake. But that seems too long. I don't know if that's even closer or not.
Yeah.
I know popsicle seems more like it. Popsicle, lollipop, very general.
Yeah.
Not a specific popsicle. But then again, in the past they've done Kit Kat specific chocolate.
You know, probably Google will do like what they did with previous
Nutella.
versions where people will vote for the name.
What? Yeah. Oh, they did that?
Yeah, they did.
They
that
let
one
people vote for the name?
Yeah,
That's crazy.
I think they did that for nougat.
Seriously?
Yeah,
I didn't know that.
I wanted Nutella, but I guess nougat won. Okay.
All right. So you start off. You give him the first feature because I do not understand anything. I know that the feature uses it helps you navigate indoors easier, but I don't know exactly how it works and how it bounces off Wi-Fi and all that stuff.
Yeah. So Google released the first version of Android P today. It's a developer preview. You can update it on one of your secondary devices. It's still too early for you to run it as your primary.
Yeah, if you download it and break your device, don't blame us for it.
Yes.
I'm just kidding.
So according to the Android developer website, Google introduced new features with Android P, one of which is indoor positioning with Wi-Fi RTT. Now, Wi-Fi RTT is a new IEEE 802.11mc Wi-Fi protocol. It's also known for the Wi-Fi round trip time. Basically, it allows you to take advantage of like this protocol allows you to do indoor positioning way more accurately than current solutions. Current solutions does use like the combination of a lot of accelerometer, gyroscopes, Bluetooth signals, Wi-Fi's, all these tags. But that one adds a lot more reliability and more accuracy. What that means for you basically is imagine you're inside like a closed mall and you want to navigate to your favorite store. You're not sure how to go. You can read those maps. It takes you longer. But imagine now you have the power of Google Maps inside that mall as well, where you can navigate and go to whichever store you want to go to. Big malls like here in Orange County, we have like South Coast. It's a huge mall, and
Oh yeah, I love South Coast.
but you know what? If you're just trying to search for a store, something you want to bring for your wife, it takes me ages. I go like from one map to another. Did I reach there? Did I get there? No.
Yeah.
Like I have to still look, and like sometimes you pass the store and you don't even know.
Oh, that would be so cool if it also like the malls update the app to show the stores inside the mall.
Yeah, so
and you can just walk to a
so
store.
what's
That would
nice
be awesome.
is Google Maps already have this as part of the maps, right?
Oh, they do?
But the navigation is not there yet.
Okay.
So imagine you get navigation saying, "Okay, this is a shortcut. We never learned that shortcut."
That's nice.
Hopefully, there's no shortcut.
That's definitely a useful feature I can live with.
So they're releasing with Android PU. We're getting Wi-Fi RTT. So hopefully that will improve that and will bring not only for Google Maps but any developers access to where you are inside a closed location. GPS is not needed, and this technically will also help like save some of your battery life because you don't have to use GPS the whole time.
Okay, the second feature we're going to talk about is the display cutout support. So guess who's following the notch theme?
Yeah, I personally
Apple started it now.
I personally don't like the notch. I'd rather have like a way trimmer bezels, like from the top and bottom, maybe not on the sides. But I'd rather go with that approach than having a notch because, you know, although they do certain things like in full screen modes where they remove that, but it's like all empty space now.
I didn't like the idea of the notch until my wife got the iPhone 10. I looked at it and the notch, it doesn't bother me very much, but I could live without it, you know? Like it's not going to keep me from not buying the phone if I really like the iPhone 10, but I just didn't like the notch, so I got the iPhone 8 Plus. But the notch, it does show you more screen, but it's not really necessary. If phone manufacturers could just work on making the top bezel slimmer,
that would
fitting more electronics, that would be way better than having this notch in the middle of the screen.
What? I also like symmetry in the design.
Yeah.
So when you look at devices that you have a notch from one side, or even the essential edge to edge, well, like what the heck? You still have that bezels from the bottom, but nothing from the top.
Yeah.
Or only that smaller camera notch from the top.
I've seen it where some manufacturers have tried. Sorry to interrupt you. I've seen it where some manufacturers have, because the main reason I think you need a notch is for the camera and the thing that produces the sound. Like I forgot what it was called.
Well, you know, the owner of the Essential, they said it's going to be end to end their next phone, and the camera is just going to pop when you want to use it.
Oh man, but that's another expense right there. Imagine you drop your phone or something and the camera's popped out.
So they have to figure that out. But if they do, but you know what? Their phone is made of titanium, so if they also figure out how to be like endure.
Okay, I do not endorse having a camera freaking pop out of my phone. This isn't 1995 where you need a camera popping out of your phone. I like the integrated camera. Some manufacturers have resorted to placing the camera on the bottom notch, but I'm highly against that. The camera should never be on the bottom. It should be on the top. Just work on creating a slimmer bezel. Don't do a notch in the middle of the phone. That's not. I just rather live without it.
I'm looking right now, for example, at the developer preview. They have a screenshot of what a tall display cutout can be. Yeah, it was like, okay, you might have that for the camera and stuff, but you're still losing a state. So wherever your layout is always going to be under that notch, right? Yeah. You might want to add like certain, widgets on top, on the sides. You can still do that. But for example, if you're in full screen, let's say you're doing like a layout that's not very intrusive to the eyes, you don't want to even show anything there. Yeah. Like let's say you're on a media player where you're just watching a movie, you don't want to see the status bar or anything, but you still lost that space. Yeah. So instead of having that space and making it show like a non-symmetrical design, I'd rather just, if there's a way they can actually make the lens a bit smaller, and we're going there, and then just make a slim notch or a bezel from the top and the bottom, and then leave everything. Like I like the design. Yeah. I like the design of the Samsung S9 phones, honestly. But they were promising a new design. They changed. Did the design change in the S9? I know it's still like the S8, but there were rumors about a different design. But I think they decided to actually wait a year, because guess what? You don't want to lose your design and then you have to think about a new design next year. You want to keep that. I mean, if I were Samsung, I'd be listening to some of the YouTubers who create renders of what the phone should look like, and the renders look amazing. Like, why can't Samsung adopt some of these? I don't know if Samsung watches or someone at Samsung watches YouTube videos, and they make some pretty good stuff. Maybe you just listen to the consumers. I mean, they have some great ideas that you guys should implement. I mean, we're the ones buying these products, so why not cater to the masses? Yeah, I agree, but I'd rather have like basically these non-pixel phones think about an approach for faster updates. Because, we're talking about Android P now, but how many devices are going to ever get them? Except if you're a Google Pixel owner. You're probably not going to get it this year or maybe the next. Yeah, I heard Android's a little slow on the updates. Google was doing a good job. Like, they introduced in 8.0 a Project Treble, which is a solution for, when you're developing one system, the manufacturer actually waits for drivers from the chip makers. That's the problem with Android. That's why it takes so long for a manufacturer to do that. And some also manufacturers don't want to release new software because they want to promote new products as well. So what happens is, let's say, for example, manufacturer X, they get their chips from company A, B, and C. So now they have to wait for drivers for A, B, and C before they can update their system and start testing their own stuff. Really? Every time they want to update a phone, they have to also get driver updates? When they want to update software, it's probably because they need to update the kernel as well. They need to patch the security and all this kind of stuff. That happens throughout the whole life cycle. And when you do that, you have to wait for every manufacturer to send you new drivers. If there's bugs in their drivers, if there's security vulnerabilities, you have to wait for them to do that. With Android 8.0 and all phones that need to be shipped with 8.0, Google enforces that. There's something called Project Treble. Project Treble is a way where it cuts that out. So you, as a manufacturer, don't have to wait for the chip maker anymore, because what they did is they created an interface. They call it the HAL, which is a hardware abstraction layer. With HAL, it actually gives you a lot of different benefits, because one, for example, benefit is each HAL, which is an abstraction layer to the driver, is running on a separate process space. So it's not part of the kernel anymore. If it's not part of the kernel anymore, you lower the chances of vulnerabilities, because guess what? Over 90% of vulnerabilities on Android is because of the drivers, not because of the system itself.
Okay.
Over 90% of these vulnerabilities, and a lot of those 10% vulnerabilities in the system are not really, some of them are high risk, but a lot of them are medium or low risk. But when it comes to drivers, because when you find a way to basically find a vulnerable code and you want to exploit that on a driver, technically you're now living in the kernel space. And guess what that means?
Whenever
if you're living in the
there's a
kernel
weakness,
space, technically you're accessed everything. So what you want to do is you want to lower the attack surface, and by creating it as a separate process running on different namespace, basically you just reduce the attack vector by a lot. The other benefit for HAL is now the chip maker already built their driver to work on that hardware abstraction layer. So now when a manufacturer, like let's say Samsung, they don't have to wait anymore for the chip makers. Because
so is this being enforced right now? Are they going to start doing this? Yes,
there's enforced for any device that's actually shipping out with 8.0 and above.
Okay.
So what happens now, Samsung don't have to wait for the chip makers. They might want to still do that because if they have vulnerabilities in those code, they need to fix them, or like bugs that say the camera has a bug or whatever. They still need to fix that. So they might, but that doesn't stop their development in parallel as well. And for the ROM community, the custom ROMs, technically you just need to flash now the system partition, just choose the one for your architecture, flash it on devices that support Project Treble, and you have an AOSP ROM with none of the bloatware that manufacturers gives us.
Not to mention any names, but yeah.
Yeah, I don't want to mention names.
One of the reasons that I went to Android for quite a while and then I kind of switched back to Apple was because I had a phone that had a lot of bloatware on it. To be honest, it made the phone really slow and laggy.
You know who you are.
We don't want to point any fingers, but
you know who you are. Stop doing that, especially after the first update.
Yeah, like
they release a software update and finally all the bloatware comes back. They advertise the phone as no bloatware. They release an update, bloatware comes back. Why?
Yeah, I really didn't like any of the extra software that was installed on the phone. If there's something that I want on the phone, I just like to download it myself.
Yes.
Even the maps, everything, I just rather do it. The messaging app, I don't want to mess with that. That should come on the phone.
But guess what? S9 should be shipping with 8.0, right? So it has to honor Project Treble. So an unlocked.
So is this Project Treble, like, is it mandated that the phone manufacturer release
they have
updates?
to for them to get Google Play on their phone.
Oh, that's awesome.
So really, now S9.
Now we don't have to wait on the manufacturers to implement it.
Yeah, but remember something. When you buy it with a carrier, the carrier locks the bootloader. So you cannot modify the system. But if you buy it as an unlocked full price from Samsung, it can come with an unlocked bootloader. And in that time, you can unlock your bootloader, flash your custom ROM, and you're done. Now, another thing that I want to mention, like, having a locked bootloader comes with a huge advantage. The reason a lot of like manufacturers provide locked bootloaders is it keeps you more secure. An unlocked bootloader can mean that any malware that found access to the phone and rooted it can actually flash their own system. And that system can basically be a way to compromise all your security, to track you, to mine cryptocurrency. You don't want to do that.
Oh, look, my phone's using 90% CPU when it's just idling. Oh, yeah, that's definitely someone mining for Bitcoin or Litecoin or whatever coin there is out there right now.
I do support AOSP ROMs, like those custom ROMs that has none of those bloatwares. Some of them are actually proven more secure than the actual original owners, or the system that the original manufacturer releases it in. But what I suggest is make sure that you do it the right way. Like, do it in a way where secure boot is still running, verified boot is still on, ways that the integrity of the whole system is checked during the boot process as well. This is important. I've done a lot of work in that, and I see the need for it as well.
Okay. On a lighter note, Android adds multi-camera support.
That was awesome. I was thinking about it
today. So now you
can
have more than one camera on your phone.
I was honestly thinking about that today, and I was like,
yeah.
can't we just like have it like a capture card or something like that on a phone where
Imagine
you
that.
you can do everything on the phone, and like those can be good for like a lot of applications. Like some of them is like, here, you want to Twitch from your phone, but you don't want to carry your phone the whole time. You just want to have like a camera or a webcam right in front of you, plug it into USB. It's
I mean,
nice.
the rate at which these devices are advancing, I wouldn't be surprised if like 4 or 5 years down the road, you're using your phone as a desktop, because the processors are getting very, very strong.
Well, that's one of the S9 features, right?
Oh, really?
You can plug in your S9 to your screen, your desktop screen, and guess what you get with that?
What?
A version of a desktop. Like, let's think about it as a miniature, fast Linux desktop.
That's nice.
Where you can do your word processing on a keyboard and a mouse and work on like a desktop environment. That's all what you need just is a screen. I think they have certain things that are nice. Yeah. But again, these should not come with the phone. These should be extensions where users can download it if they choose to.
I mean, some gaming desktops, I know it's a gaming desktop and this is a phone, but some gaming desktops, you can basically connect like an external GPU to it. Imagine if like some of these games could run on a phone where you can plug an external desktop GPU and have it
I want to ask you something.
Broadcast to your computer. That's like a gaming computer right there.
I don't have the S9 for me to actually assess or even try that out yet. But imagine the Android system, the Android kernel is a Linux kernel. Yeah, it's based on the Linux open source project as well. So there are Nvidia. I don't know if you heard about it. Nvidia has something called Nvidia Geforce Now, which allows you to play high definition games by simply streaming them to their supercomputers. Yeah, and they claim very low latency.
I heard about that, man, but I still don't buy it. Like, I mean, gaming on the cloud.
But let me just say.
I'm not gonna go for it because I haven't tried it. Yeah. But I mean, running your game.
But you get a month
on a computer that's like 2,000 miles away, and the latency with the Wi-Fi. Like, I mean, if you have a bad Wi-Fi connection, that's gonna.
Okay, like besides, obviously, this won't work in environments that don't have fast connections, but now every day
most people have reliable
right now.
But still the latency, because it's like
the thing is they have servers everywhere.
Some first-person shooter games, like if you play them, like for some people, 5 milliseconds is too much time to wait till you get killed. Like,
but it really depends on the servers that they're adding and the location of the servers as well. Yeah. So I was watching a demo on that as well. So the guy, what he did, he got a 10-year-old laptop that's barely running Windows anymore. He decided he gave up with Windows, so I'm gonna just install.
We should do a video like that and install the G4. Yeah.
So what he did, he got a very old laptop that basically he downloaded Linux. He opened the version of the game that he's playing on Steam on the Linux box because Windows doesn't even boot at that time.
Oh, you can do this through Steam?
Yeah. So no, Steam has the version of the app on Linux. So he played that and it shows so laggy. Then what he did is he just used GeForce Now for the same game and recorded it, and I was looking at that, it was like low latency. It was very low latency. It was like also playing a first action shooter as well. And I was like, man, that is super fast. And guess what? It's a 10-year-old laptop. It's $100 laptop.
Dude, that's awesome.
Running a high-end game at full quality. Yeah. And guess what? It's only like less than $10 a month.
You can play any game in their library?
Any game in the library, $10 a month.
Wow. That is a steal, dude.
There are
all the money that I've spent creating my Steam library, now you can just pay a $10
So what I'm saying is now you don't need a high-end gaming laptop. Like laptop
but I disagree with you there, because some hardcore people are still going to stick to their guns.
Obviously, I don't talk about hardcore people.
And I'm one of those people who I'm sticking to my desktop to playing games.
I would honestly stick to my desktop as well.
I just like tinkering with the hardware. Like, I like knowing that my computer is a beast. I don't want someone else's computer to be a beast and not mine. Like, that's not how it works.
The thing is, I'm talking about you from an economical standpoint.
I wonder what GPUs they're using.
Their GPUs obviously Titans.
1080 for me is perfect for gaming right now.
But. Yeah, they're probably using something strong. But the idea is, think about it from an economical point of view, right? So what I see is your computer after a year will degrade in performance. New games will require new hardware and stuff like that. So you have to reinvest money into bringing better graphic cards, better CPUs, and spend a lot more money on that.
Don't get me wrong. Like, I agree with you that it's a better alternative for someone who doesn't have the money to buy their own system, to buy their own games every month. Like, I mean, $10 to have access to all those games is definitely cheaper than buying the game, buying expansion packs, buying the hardware for it. Like you said, 3-4 years down the road, you got to switch out your processor because something newer came out. But for someone who's into computers as much as I am, I like upgrading my hardware every 2 to 3 years. So I'm going to stick to my computer, but Nvidia, great job on that one. Like, that's a really good way for people to get into gaming. It really opens access to those people who have a financial barrier towards getting those games.
So now imagine your S9 is your interface, because Geforce Now has a Linux support. So having a Linux support can translate. I bet someone is actually going to create a port for it. And guess what? Your phone, you go to your friend's house, you plug in your phone to the HDMI cable.
I honestly wouldn't be surprised in a couple of years if that's not the way it works, because these phones are getting so powerful.
Oh, it is so powerful. So back to Android P. A lot of people are currently overlooking the security updates. We don't hear about that on some of the tech newspapers and stuff like that. But Google is releasing finally a unified fingerprint authentication dialog. What that means basically is the prompt that asks for your fingerprint to place your hand is now common across different apps. So unlike on 7.0 and previous versions where you see one dialog on one app, another dialog on another app, it feels like it's not the same. But then now Google wants to push that because from a security perspective, that's very important to have one look. And that dialog as well uses their new feature as well, which is called the high assurance user confirmation. Basically, on Android especially, like a malware can hijack your UI. Basically, can draw stuff on top of your phone or top of your screen. So you think you're actually answering yes, but you might be answering no. For example, imagine you have a dialogue saying with a yes or no question. Do you want to make $100 payment? You press no, but a malware can hijack the no to be yes and the yes to be no.
Okay, so I have a question for you, Ruru. Have you heard about the Intel glasses? They're sort of like the Google glasses.
Yeah, I heard something about that.
Well, I just read an article about them, and it's a pair of glasses. It's an augmented reality pair of glasses where they inject a laser, a low-powered laser. Now, don't be afraid. They say it's safe. I don't know it's safe. I'm not going to believe it's safe until someone actually wears it and tests it. But basically, it projects a laser into your eyeball and shows you that, for example, like let's say if Google Maps supports it, it will send the directions to your glasses, and then you see them basically in your eyes.
That's as if they were a nice take.
That's I think that's the way of the future, to be honest.
Yeah, I think it just needs to be approved for the public to make sure that it doesn't damage any eyes.
I definitely agree with that.
Long-term views and stuff.
But I mean, it's Intel we're talking about. Like, this isn't some no-name company. Like, they probably have researched the heck out of this thing, and they probably know that it's safe. But honestly, I won't use it until someone else uses it for a while, and then. I mean, I say this now, but once it comes out, I might just go out and buy it. I don't know if it's under $1,000.
But have you heard about Bose take on augmented reality as well?
No, I haven't.
They're actually using audio to actually give without the lasers and without projecting anything. They're actually just saying everything that you're saying, everything that you're seeing, right? So, for example, when you're looking at a store, instead of actually showing you the store and the ratings, it's actually just telling you
like Yelp reviews. One of the things they talked about in the interview that's shown on the screen right now is that they were saying that maybe Yelp could also integrate into it, whereas if you look at a store, instead of you having to open your phone and check the Yelp reviews, let's say there's another store right there on your right, one on the left, it'll give you the Yelp ratings of both stores, and then you can make a decision based on that without ever having to open your phone.
So that's the Bose.
That's the Bose glasses.
So it's a nice thing. They're using audio. They're an audio company, so they're using audio to describe everything that.
Don't get me wrong. Bose has some excellent quality sounding speakers. The desktop speakers I currently have, a Bose Sound Companion 5s or 3s, I think, and it's like the most amazing sound system that I've ever purchased.
But you know, it's important. What ends like those because they're just glasses and stuff.
So how did the Bose connect to you only by audio? Okay.
Yeah. But on these devices, the price is very important as well.
Yeah.
Because a lot of people don't like wearing glasses. They think they're not cool and stuff like that. You want to.
I think they look geeky, to be honest. I think women are into guys with glasses.
Oh, I don't know. But the idea is, if you want to wear glasses, you need to wear something that's first fashionable, and then it's not very expensive as well.
Okay. All right. We'll be back in a second.
All right.
All right, sorry about that, guys. We had a technical difficulty. Our wives just came home. Rawad's wife came home. My wife came home. So we had to cut it out there. So basically, we're going to go back to the glasses. Now, the thing that's prohibiting me from buying the glasses is if the price comes out too high. Under $1,000, maybe we'll think about it. Hopefully, it's lower than that. Maybe $300-400. To be completely honest, I'm more interested in the Intel glasses than I am in the Bose glasses. But I would love the two to marry each other and have glasses that have both the augmented reality feature with Bose sound, because Bose does sound properly and Intel does what it does properly, processing the image.
Does it do really?
Processing the image, projecting the image into your eyeball. I think that's fantastic. Maybe if the two of them could get together and work on like a project, that would be completely amazing. And now I think you wanted to talk about the Amazon Alexa.
Yeah, so you know, Amazon Alexa was way ahead of Google Assistant in terms of when they release the products, the number of support, developer support, and all that. But guess who's playing catch up right now?
Google.
So now Amazon adds follow-up mode to Alexa. So technically you have context-aware conversations where you can make a question or you can ask Alexa a question, and then based on its answer, you can ask a follow-up question.
Okay.
Google Home had that since the beginning, and Amazon's playing catch up right now.
Google, honestly, I wasn't too much into voice search and all that stuff, but once I used the Google Home, that you have the Google Home Mini, like it knows, like ask it, like when is Obama's birthday? It says, like, let's say 1965 or whatever. That's not his birthday, by the way, but let's say it says that. Then you can ask him, oh, like, where is he originally from? And then it knows from the first question that you're talking about Obama, and then it knows that you're asking about his age, which is pretty cool to me.
So that's called context-aware conversation.
Context awareness,
so it's not like an action, it's like more of a conversation.
Yeah.
Conversational is going to be the new realm, so Amazon had to do that for Alexa to be a viable product.
Yeah, I was reading an article the other day where it was talking about how Amazon Alexa is getting more contextually aware, whereas I think Google Assistant, can you ask Google Assistant like what time is it and turn off the kitchen lights? Does it know that?
Yeah, they're doing now. They're adding something called routines and subroutines. Yeah. What's nice is you can even teach it multiple commands into one phrase as well. For example, hey Google, I'm home, and if you hear that, it starts turning on the lights, turning on the music, whatever you're.
See, now where Alexa is in this technology, they're gonna do it where you can ask her one question and then ask her to do another thing, but you can't ask her two questions in the same sentence. It's gonna stay active for an additional 5 seconds after you ask the first question, just in case you have a second question or command. You give it to Alexa, Alexa works, and so on.
That's nice.
Yeah.
Yeah, as terms of Google Home, you can actually have multiple requests at the same time. For example, hey Google, what time is it? And can you turn on the lights?
Alexa's getting there, I think.
Yeah. So the thing is, with these technologies, Amazon and Google are very big companies. They're both very focused on AI, and you know, looking at like my knowledge on machine learning and like, especially right now, my focus is more on reinforced learning. I know I like to actually marry more types like supervised, unsupervised, as well as reinforced learning all together, because we as humans don't only get supervision from someone, we also use trial and error to actually fix certain things and improve our skills. So I think that's where we need to take AI as well. So we need to guide it first and then allow it to evolve and learn by itself. And like, you know, if you heard about that scary Boston Dynamic dog where it open the door. Like, you know, these things are using reinforced learning because that's how it knows how to balance itself. That's how it knows how to like open the door. That if you want to have a supervisor, like a person to teach it via supervisor, it will take a lot of data set. It will take a lot of training. But if you do reinforced learning techniques, it's all the concept of you're in a current state, you have possible actions. Whatever action you take is going to jump you to the next state, and with that next state, basically you get a reward. So the reward can be a function of how many steps you made. For example, in case of a robot, a reward, how long did you stabilize yourself before? And what the algorithm needs to do is maximize the reward. So it tries different actions, different combinations, always goes back to the initial state. Let's run these different combinations. And by the time it starts picking up the patterns, so it knows that I need to do this instead of that to actually get the highest reward. It's like, feeding a dog a treat every time they eat.
I don't know how that works in the electronics world where you feed the machine.
Yeah, but there is a feedback loop to the initial state. So it's pretty nice, and it's a good topic.
You know what I thought was pretty cool? That Mario game you once showed me.
Oh yeah, that.
And where some guy taught Mario how to play the level by itself, and AI taught Mario how to play and win the level.
So what happens?
You want to pull it up on the screen?
Yeah, I can do that. So what happened was, the programmer never taught it the rules. They didn't even teach how you lose, how you win. The algorithm discovered that by itself and started avoiding all these patterns. So they even have a live channel actually where Mario is always playing. But it's Mario IO basically. If you YouTube that thing, you'll find it. So that's a
just show him a screenshot of it.
So yeah, that would be a very nice.
You guys should take a look at that if you guys are interested in that sort of thing. It's pretty cool how Mario evolves, and every time, I think it took it like 34 times to beat the level that we're looking at.
34.
So basically it would run through the level, then make an error, which is die in this case. Then it would restart, go ahead, and it will make it farther. And every time make it farther until it finished the game. It became really smart. I don't think a human being can play Mario at that pace or at that like quality of playing. But yeah, they did it and they made it happen.
I can't even show the live one where they actually have Mario playing live the whole time. So you can actually go into YouTube, watch the AI playing, and honestly, the way I saw it play that first level, it's better than a lot of humans.
Yeah.
So.
Maybe I don't think gaming is going in this direction, but just imagine this. Imagine playing games comes down to building the best AI to play a game, then you let AIs fight it out. Well, that would be crazy.
Well, not that as well. As a computer, you always want to challenge, and playing against a computer, whether you choose the hardest difficulty, at one point you're always going to master it. Yeah. But imagine you play with the hardest difficulty, and that AI basically learns from its mistakes. And imagine you have an AI that's playing against you, how you beat him. But guess what? The more you beat him, the better he becomes.
Yeah.
So
to evolve, that's crazy.
It can evolve, and it can make gaming very crucial.
Imagine playing Battlefield like that with two AIs. That would be crazy.
But if like to give you another perspective of that, there's a game called Go. It's an ancient game. It's like chess, but it has a lot of more possibilities. And Google actually took on that task because the number of possibilities in Go is more than the number of atoms in the known universe. So that means that there's no computer simulation that can predict the future. It has to be something that's truly AI.
Yeah.
So what they did is they trained like an AI. They call it the AlphaGo. How to play Go. Basically, it taught itself. They taught it some of the rules and stuff like that. And they fed it against like weaker players and gradually went to the top. And then they started playing against the top Go players. And Go is a very, very strategical game. It's all strategy. Like it's a war game. So you have to have like a general strategy. Yeah. So imagine.
I haven't played that game, so I can't pitch in and talk about it.
So the algorithm discovered new strategies and it used it against the top players, and the top players got surprised. It was like, oh my god, this works. Like they have those games as well on YouTube if you want to watch these, but these are very nice add-ons.
It's interesting watching the AI do the work, but it's also more interesting to me to watch the AI fail and evolve.
Yeah, but that's
That's what I think is the most interesting
you
part
know,
for
they
me.
did
Honestly,
fail one game against one top champion, but then it won in 5-1. But
he learned a mistake.
I know.
He had that one trick up his sleeve.
He tried that again.
Yeah.
Against him, so he can win again. It didn't work the next generation. But you know what's funny? They created something called AlphaGo Zero, which uses reinforcement learning. Again, it starts. They call it AlphaGo Zero because it started from rules zero, no rules.
Yeah.
And they use reinforcement learning, and the way they taught it is by playing against AlphaGo. So you have now two AIs playing each other, and AlphaGo Zero, after like a few generations, I think it was like 40 generations or more.
40 generations here means 40 tries. Like it would proceed with the game, then it would fail, then it would start over. Just for the people who don't understand what that is.
So after those generations, AlphaGo won every single game. AlphaGo Zero won every single game against AlphaGo.
Nice.
And what's nice is AlphaGo already beat the best humans in this game, and AlphaGo Zero beat the best, the algorithm that actually beat the best humans. So good luck, humanity, if AI was made for something evil.
Seriously.
So as I tell everyone, like with technology, it's awesome, but the way you use it, you have to be very responsible. So like, you know, with great power comes great responsibility. You're creating AI. AI can be used in a lot of good things. It can be used for finding cure for diseases. It can be used for like making our everyday tasks a lot easier.
Yeah, like imagine trying to fight like a virus or something. You can have AI like mix the chemicals and find what solutions work and what don't. It's first of all, it's way faster than a human being can ever do it. If you would like have this machine that would like be hooked up to the chemicals and all this stuff, and it would test different things against the virus and hopefully find a solution to that.
Yeah, so like even there's a lot of different applications for AI. Like some of them are security applications where an AI detects intrusions. I'm actually excited about that one. Everyone likes to secure their own servers.
But then you have AI working to defeat the security.
But yeah, so it's an AI where we get Skynet. So, so exactly, like with that power, you need to have a plan not to use it for weapons, use it for like killing people.
But you know what? I think even if it evolves, there's always going to be something more powerful on the good side, hopefully, fighting the bad AI.
Well,
hopefully.
Yeah, like the thing is, if you look at a lot of technologies, they start off very well, and then
someone finds out a way to exploit the system, and then
they use them for their own benefits, whether it's in war, whether it's in economical gain and stuff like that. You don't want to do that. Like I bet even people at Wall Street right now have an algorithm that detects the stock.
What stock is going to come and go?
Yeah, I read. That is a base application that they teach people in college students how they use that to predict certain like prices of houses and stuff like that. Imagine Wall Street has those people there.
I read this article about how Wall Street built like a 500 or 300 mile Ethernet cable basically, so that they can trade stock like 3 or 5 milliseconds faster than anyone else, because that gave them like an edge where they can make like 5 to 10% more money by doing that. They literally built a canal, built a wire that went from their headquarters all the way to some server, some hub where they can get the faster connection, just to make sure that they can trade stocks as quickly as possible, securities in general, as fast as possible.
Yeah.
So if they're willing to go as far as to build a cable from where they're located all the way to the central internet hub, I think they're willing to invest in AI to better predict the stocks. And computers can do millions, if not billions, of calculations per second. I strongly
believe they already have that. Because those are like, basic.
But of course, they don't give it to us general people. No. We don't get that. We have to buy the stock, lose the money. Why would they give that? Wait 2 years till the stock rebounds. Yeah, we're
so they invested a lot of money into that, so they can actually make increase their money. But it's
interesting how
it's interesting works. And as I mentioned, you need to always think about AI from a good perspective, not an evil perspective. If you're thinking about building it for your economical gain only, and then you want to seclude that's probably a very bad thing, because if you make yourself richer and everyone around you becomes poorer, you might feel like, hey, you're more powerful, but at that time if you have all the money in the world, what can you do with it if you're not happy as well?
Yeah,
so
that's true.
Um,
Money can make you happy, but it's not everything in life. All right, guys, thank you for tuning in, listening to this podcast. If you guys are listening to it in audio format only, thank you very much. We appreciate you as an audience. And if you guys are watching it on YouTube, shout out to you guys. If you guys liked it, please like this video and subscribe to our channel. It does help us out a lot.
Right. Yeah, I just want to mention that there's a lot of topics out there that we can discuss, and we only have an hour to discuss as much as we can.
Yeah.
So stay tuned. We have a lot of interesting things to mention on our next podcast. And thank you again for listening.
Thank you again for listening. Don't forget to subscribe. Take care.